Who should consider an annuity and who should not? Why is there so much confusion and conflicting opinions about annuities? Are they good? Are they bad? That is the subject of this video. Welcome to another episode of the Financial Fast Lane. My name is Martinsen. I'm the author of the Holistic Retirement Planning Revolution. And the purpose of this channel is to provide educational information to those who are 50 and over, specifically on retirement planning topics. And today, we are specifically talking about annuities. There's a lot of confusion in the world around annuities. Are they good? Are they bad? There's so much conflicting information. So to get started, let me ask you a question. If you could have your dream perfect investment, what would it be? Okay? Let's list out some of the attributes of the perfect investment. We'd certainly like to have high returns, right? No market risk whatsoever, that'd be nice. Tax deduction, tax-free growth, tax-free distributions would be great. Basically, we want everything tax-free. It'd be nice if it was all guaranteed. It would also be nice if we didn't have required minimum distributions to worry about, no penalties of any kind, no fees of any kind, and we had complete liquidity, complete use of our money anytime in any way that we wanted. That would be a perfect investment, would it not? So does it exist? And the answer is, of course, it does not exist. However, all of these attributes that are listed here, they are available in different types of investments or different types of financial tools or products. And so it's understanding the trade-offs. So before I get too deep into this, just a disclaimer. I live in a very regulated world, right? And this information is just educational. Don't take it as any personal advice. I have created a free download. It's called Understanding Annuities in the 21st Century. And so I've taken chapter 8 and we've turned it into this free annuity guide that you can download completely free, no obligation. So in my book, one of the things we talk about is how many different investment options there are. There's a lot of different financial tools, a lot of different products out there. And how do you get the right mix and how do you know what's best for you? Well, to simplify the discussion, I like to categorize them as red tools or green tools. So in my book, we refer to red investment tools and green investment tools. So the red tools would be anything that is subject to market risk. So we're talking about stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate, commodities. Okay, anything that can depreciate in value as an investment, it has some risk, it has market risk associated with it, right? So those are what we call red tools. And then we have green tools that are also available in the world today, right? And these are mostly provided through insurance companies, such as life insurance, annuities, and some bank products, such as CDs. And so those would be what we call the green tools because they have no market risk. They come with certain guarantees where the principal is protected and guaranteed against any market loss. So which is better? Well, it completely depends on your situation, right? So one of the important things you want to understand is that the licensing requirements for financial advisors that deal with red tools is entirely different than the licensing requirements for those that deal with green tools. And they have different regulating bodies, and they really are kind of two different worlds, two different camps, two different types of institutions that deal with red tools or green tools. And so you tend to get a lot of bias. So if you're working with an advisor and he specializes in red tools and only red tools, he's going to be very biased towards red tools because that's what he does, right? And vice versa, if you have someone that deals with and specializes in annuities, for example, or life insurance, then they really specialize and focus on those strengths that their products have to offer. And so you really get this strong bias going on. But what's best? What's best for you? What you really want when it comes to looking for a financial advisor is you want someone who's experienced with both and has all of the tools. So then you can know if you're truly getting someone that's non-biased. So for example, I'm a Red Tools investment advisor. We manage millions of dollars for our clients' investments. But I'm also very experienced on the green side of tools. And it's typically going to be a combination of the two, and understanding the differences that really makes a big difference. So if we look at traditional asset allocation, it's basically a combination of stocks and bonds, right? Well, why would we have bonds in a portfolio? Well, because we don't want, if you have an all stock portfolio, then that's going to be too risky, right? You want to head into your retirement years with 100% stocks. That's just very, very risky, and you could run out of money prematurely with a whole variety of market turndowns that could happen. And so using traditional asset allocation, Red Tools, you're going to have some bonds. So the problem is that bonds, they ain't what they used to be, and it's because interest rates are so low. So when you have a retirement account, the question is how much of it can you take out in retirement? What is the withdrawal rate? Well, the safe withdrawal rate for years has been around 4%. Some advisors will say between 4 and 6%, depending on the age in which you retire. But new studies show that if you use the 4% rule today, 57% of people will run out of money prematurely. And so instead of it's no longer 4%, it's now more like 2% is the safe withdrawal rate. Well, what has changed? A couple of things have changed. The key factor being interest rates. The other thing that has changed is longevity. We live longer. We need our money to last longer. And now with historically low interest rates, it really creates a problem when we're using strictly traditional asset allocation as our model. So if we go back 38 years, 1982, I was just graduating high school. It's hard to believe it's been 38 years. But interest rates were really high, if you'll remember. And ever since then, the trend with interest rates has been down. And so when interest rates are going down, that means we're in a bull market for bonds. And so we've had decades where bonds have been really great, and they've provided a nice yield, they've provided a great diversification against stocks, and the traditional asset allocation model worked really well. Well, things have changed, times have changed, and the interest rates now are as low as they've ever been in my lifetime. And so what does that mean? If you have when you own bonds, really low interest bonds, and we start to have any type of inflation, you're going to lose money. Bonds do not perform well at all in an inflationary environment. And even if there is no inflation, you don't get anything from bonds anymore, right? Because the yield is so low. Here's a quote from Ray Dalio. Investors would be crazy to hold bonds right now. You may know this guy, Ken Langone. He's founder of Home Depot. He says, who in their right mind would be buying bonds now? And so one of the things that's another really important concept here to understand is that when you're preparing for retirement, we call these the accumulation years. And so saving and preparing for retirement to get to the goal of retirement is really not the goal. The goal is to get all the way down the other side of the mountain, right? So once you retire, you need your retirement nest egg to get you all the way down the other side of the mountain, which could be 2-3 decades in retirement, right? And so most financial advisors, they live in the accumulation side of the mountain. And so if you're talking about annuities don't generally fit on the accumulation side for a number of different reasons. But once you start to approach retirement, and we need to plan out our retirement income, and we need to make sure that we have that income that won't run out, now there's a whole different set of skills that comes into play. This is what we call distribution planning. And if you just simply use like a 4% rule or something, you're going to end up running out of money prematurely. So let's talk about green tools for a minute. Okay, we're going to talk about annuities. That's the purpose of this video. It's important to understand that annuities have evolved a lot over the years. There's been a lot of new innovation, and many of the talking points for those who are critical of annuities, they're using the same talking points that they were using in the 80s. And I've watched the progression over the years, and it's the same exact talking points. Now, many of them are true and accurate. A lot of the time when they're talking about annuities, they're talking about certain types of annuities, and they're excluding the newer types. And so you really have to unlearn, as Yoda says, what you have learned, because things have changed and circumstances have changed. There are basically three different types of annuities. You have fixed annuities, variable annuities, and now we have fixed index annuities. There are pros and cons to all of these. The variable annuities are basically investments in mutual funds. They call them sub-accounts, but you can still lose. It's really not a true green tool. Although they do have some guarantees, you can still lose money in a variable annuity. Variable annuities are full of fees. I don't ever recommend variable annuities. Now, fixed index annuities, specifically the ones that have been developed in recent years, it's really become a game changer, because you can now get a fixed index annuity where you have a guarantee of no loss in the market, regardless of what interest rates do, regardless of what the stock market does. You can't lose. But the money can grow surprisingly well based on the performance of the market index or indexes. And I know there's a lot of information there, and I can't go into all the details, but annuity companies use stock options in an environment where they can guarantee you won't lose, but when the market's up, they exercise the stock options, they realize gains, and they're able to share those gains with you. So it's fairly complex how it's all done, but the end result is a very, very conservative way to invest. Now, you never compare annuities with stock market returns or with the stock market, because they're two entirely different things. What you want to compare annuities to are bonds. So we're talking about the bond portion of a portfolio. It's the portion of your portfolio that you want. It's the safe money. It's the sleep well at night money. It's not we're trying to, chase after the highest returns. It's the safe. So the alternative to a fixed index annuity would be bonds, low interest bonds. Well, we can do a lot better with fixed index annuities nowadays that have no fees or very low fees in comparison to bonds. When you're in your distribution years, you have market risk, you have a new risk, sequence risk. I have a different video where we specifically address sequence risk. It's a very important concept to understand. And we have longevity risk. And I'm actually going to make a new video on that subject. But we live longer, and most people are living longer than they anticipate living. And so that creates a financial issue. We need our money to last longer. So with an annuity, the right type of annuity, it can possibly really solve a problem for you, take risk off the table. Now, I haven't even mentioned one of the biggest advantages to annuity, and that is guaranteed income for life. So it creates a source of income that you cannot outlive. And we can actually get more money out of an annuity than we can bonds, a significant amount. You would need $200,000 or $300,000 in bonds to do what you could accomplish with $100,000 in an annuity. Now, how is that possible? It has to do with how long you live. So if an annuity, if you put a certain amount of money into annuity and it grows and is gaining interest and whatnot, and then you have this income stream, and the income stream is also increasing over time. And then let's say that you go along in retirement years and it pays out, all the money that it has paid you is more than you ever put in, and it's more than all the interest that you earned in the annuity. What happens to the income? It just keeps on going. So that is what we call additional money. It's money, the term is mortality yield, sometimes referred to as mortality credit. But it is the additional money that comes from the insurance company. And how are they able to do that? They do it because they're using actuarial science, right? It has to do with the law of large numbers. They're pooling assets. They can't do it with one or two people. They have to have thousands of people pooling their assets. And so that's something that only insurance companies can do. Because some people will live shorter, some people will live longer. And so an annuity with an income stream, it becomes an income insurance, because the insurance company has guaranteed it. So coming back to the traditional asset allocation model, if you're going to use bonds in your portfolio as you head into retirement or as you're approaching retirement, then the safe withdrawal rate is around 2%, maybe 3%. So that means you're not going to get as much income. But with a fixed index annuity, for some people, that guarantee, the withdrawal rate is going to be higher. So we can actually get more income out without the fear of running out. If you're using traditional asset allocation, your bonds, you can deplete them down to zero, then you're out of money. Fixed index annuity, you get more income out, and then it never stops, guaranteed for life. So is an annuity an important or powerful financial tool? It is. They're not for everyone. It depends on your age, it depends on your circumstances. And then there's a whole nother conversation we need to have about taxes, because taxes are a huge factor. And even guys who specialize in annuities, a lot of times they ignore the tax issues. And so ideally what you want is you want to have Roth annuities, translate that into Roth income. So how would you like to have most of your income, or at least a major part of it, ideally all of your income, completely tax-free in retirement? So if tax rates go up in the future, you're completely isolated because your income is tax-free. That can be accomplished with good planning. So I've just scratched the surface of a heavily debated topic. There's a lot to know and a lot to understand. And so I want to make it easy for you. I have created a free download. It's called Understanding Annuities in the 21st Century. So what we did is, in my book, chapter 8, is where we talk about annuities and the changes, and we go into more depth. And so I've taken chapter 8 and we've turned it into this free annuity guide that you can download completely free, no obligation. So I hope you really will take advantage of that. Please feel free to ask any questions in the comments or below, or contact us. We're happy to talk. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.